we did a segment where liberals were melting down because Elon Musk got one thing right finally, where he labeled NPR as state media. So you can chime in on that if you want as well. Because speaking of state media, I did a whole expose where I was like, yeah, this one thing that Elon Musk actually got right. NPR is 100% state media.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of state media, we have the New York Times.
Oh no, New York Times! What did they do? Whatever did they do? Oh no, Nick? Maybe the people need to zoom in and see what exactly is going on here. See what's happening. What is the New York Times saying? By the way, if you're vote blue no matter who and you're hate watching right now, you're gonna get triggered. But breathe. It'll be fine.
We are conspiracy theorists because we dare slander the great name of the official record, the New York Times. How dare you say New York Times state media, Nick? What do you mean? The entire newspaper is run by spooks. Look at this tweet. And I want you to speak on this. You also can speak on the NPR story if you want. But This is why I say our media is state media. It's public funding I don't really care about. It's like where your conflicts lie. And our media has been infiltrated by the capitalist imperialist class. So there's no greater conflict of interest between media and government relationship than what you see in the United States, as shown by this story.
So the tweet says, and hang on, vote blue no matter who. Intelligence leaks surrounding who blew up most of the Russian-backed Nord Stream pipelines last September have provided more questions than answers. It may be in no one's interest to reveal more. Just follow orders. Go back to work, people. Do not question the state. It's not in your interest to follow or look into. Don't look at anything. It's not in your interest. So in other words, remember all that hype saying it was Russia that did it. Yeah. What? So listen. If there was a Russian military unit or commander that decided to take the initiative to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline and Putin found out, that person, he won't be dead, but no one's going to find them for a long, long time, okay? Yeah. So Putin is making money. Russia's making money off that Nord Stream pipeline. This is a fact. If you get triggered by that vote blue no matter who or SJW activists in the social justice warrior industrial complex, well then too bad. Calm down, because the thing is now, it might not have been Russia. So at first there was that reports of, it was a pro-Ukrainian faction that did it. Okay, who gave them the funding, resources, and training to do a deep sea explosive operation? How did they get there? How was this pulled off? In other words, there might be an here, corporate media. It might have been, well, us.
What does that say? Remember when the Nord Stream bombings happened, it was obvious you did it. You guys know that sanctioned the United States was trending in Germany?
Yep.
MSNBC didn't tell you that.
No.
They was pissed because this is a giant example of not just environmental terrorism, but eco-terrorism. This is going to harm the economies of Europe and Germany, and this was the United States' way to cut off Europe's dependency on Russian gas by force. Mm-hmm. And this is a very inconvenient narrative from the West. And this is one of the things that everyone else in the world saw, despite the fact that many Americans probably did not. So people in Africa, people in the global South, Lula. I got a story. I may get to it next week, where Lula is crafting peace deals with China, meeting with Russia. And the United States is very upset about that, because the rest of the world sees what the hell the United States is doing. They see what the Nord Stream pipeline bombings. And people like Rashida Tlaib is asked about it, and she's like, fuck, I ain't answering that shit. Progressive, the entire NATO left, don't talk about Nord Stream, because if the NATO left acknowledged Nord Stream, their entire argument and their positions start to crumble apart. And now that go back to the New York Times and the corporate media, who knows that? Because I don't know if you saw this, but not just the New York Times, just the headline that you just read, where it said, the last part where it said, may be in no one's interest to reveal more. What do you mean?
What do you mean? You're the news. That's your job. You need to tell me. Okay, first of all, there's been so many people yelling at people like you, Nick. There's so many people yelling at you, CJ, Jimmy Dore, Hard Lens Media, everyone, right? They say, "Oh, you're not real journalist," or "Oh, why are you asking all these questions?" What? Yeah. Why is it that we have to do a job that corporate media is supposedly the experts in? They say it's not in your interest to look into further. Why? I think. Excuse me. But there's an environmental disaster that's leading up to a conflict. What? Why? Who did this? It's sort of like, oh, someone robbed the bank. But it's not in your interest to find out who the robbers are. We're just going to let it go. And I guarantee you that the bank robbers will never rob a bank again. Get the hell out of here. No, I want to know who these bank robbers are. Who's this? Who are these murderers on the street? Who's the great big bad guy? I mean, seriously, you're telling me an authoritative, hey, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, there's an authoritative source saying it's not in our interest. No wonder people don't trust corporate media anymore, the two-party system. When you tell me it's not in my interest, I realize that you can't do your job, and not to mention everyone there working at the New York Times, all these articles that we see, they only write these articles to pay the rent. Because let's face it, living in New York is expensive. So there you go.
How is it not state TV? And how do they accomplish this? We did propaganda report earlier this week where everyone was saying that, Finland joining NATO is a blow to Putin. MSNBC, blow to Putin. Fox News, blow to Putin. CNN, blow to Putin. How do these quote unquote independent private enterprises keep coming up with the same headlines?
I got the answer. I got the answer for you.
I'm gonna share this here. Look, I'm gonna give you another example, and then you can explain, kid. Look at this here. The Washington Post on the Nord Stream attack. Leaders see little benefit from digging too deeply and finding an uncomfortable answer. And they talk about how people don't talk about Nord Stream. So you get the New York Times, who floats the idea of, hey, guys, can we not talk about this? Then Washington Post talk about how there's a new strategy out. We just don't talk about Nord Stream. You guys see this coordinated strategy, but Kate, go ahead and enlighten us about how our media works.
So first of all, number one, remember when obviously the Colonial Pipeline's still leaking, by the way, folks. But remember when that thing was supposedly shut down? Everyone's saying it's Russia that shut down the Colonial Pipeline, a Colonial Pipeline that goes all across the East Coast. It's still leaking over there in North Carolina, by the way, folks. Look into that. It's very true. But one other thing here, too. The reason why, Nick, to answer your question about why the titles look the same, is everyone go back in time to 2016 when Jimmy Dore was with TYT, and they were covering a Bernie Sanders rally, and Jimmy, being Jimmy, in the field reporting, was making a joke about the reporters in the reporter pit area. I obviously, Nick, you've seen it if you ever covered a live event. We here at Heartland's Media have been there too in the reporter pit area, and this was after Bernie Sanders was speaking, and he was noticing all the reporters there together, writing and copying each other's notes. It's click, copy, paste. They're copying each other's work. It's sort of like the kids in school when they're cheating on the same test, or they're getting something from Wikipedia. That's how they operate, because their journalist department is not getting enough resources. Two, they need to get the stuff out there quick, so they get a title and they copy it and say, "Oh, I made this." They might make some changes or switch the paragraphs around or have in different words, but it's a clone. Click, copy, paste articles. That's what you.
And I read enough articles to say it. What you're saying is 100% the fact, because I'll read these stories and that's why I tell you guys that our media is just like state media, and they get the same talking points, the same sources from intelligence agencies. Because I'll read an article from two different sources from people who apparently from two different sides of the political spectrum. They're like, red media. Oh my God, this is the media that's extremely conservative with a right-wing slant. Then I read MSNBC take on China, right-wing take on China, same fucking thing. They will use the same language. And I'm like, dude, this shit is not going.